The great hall of the Zephyrian High Council buzzed with nervous energy. Commander Vexcol stood before the massive circular table where 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in judgment. His blue skin gleamed under the crystal lights, and his forearms gestured boldly as he spoke. "Honored Council, we stand at the edge of greatness," Vexcol declared. "The worlds of Sector 7 Alpha are rich beyond our wildest dreams. Rare metals, perfect farming planets, and water worlds that could support billions of our people. All we need to do is take them." Elder Thaynara shifted in her ancient seat. Her skin was pale blue, almost white with age, and her 6 eyes had seen more wars than any living being in the room. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 3,000 years. "Young Commander, you speak of worlds that are not empty. The humans have built colonies there. They have families, children, entire cities." Vexcol turned to face the Elder, his confidence unwavering. "Humans, the primitive species that barely learned to travel between stars 50 years ago? They are nothing compared to our might. Their weapons are simple, their ships are slow, and their numbers are small." "You know nothing of humans," Thaynara said, quietly. Her old hands gripped the edge of the table. "I have studied the ancient records. I have read the warnings left by civilizations that came before us." The other council members leaned forward. Some had heard whispers of these old stories, but few believed them. "Tell us, Elder," said Council Leader Mordak. "What do these ancient records say?" Thaynara stood slowly, her age making every movement careful. She walked to the center of the hall where a holographic display showed the galaxy. With a wave of her hand, she zoomed in on a small blue planet on the outer edge. "This world is called Earth," she began. 3,000 years ago, the Kethmari Empire was the strongest force in the galaxy. They had conquered 100 worlds and ruled over 50 different species. They were proud, powerful, and believed nothing could stop them. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Kethmari found Earth during one of their expansion wars. They saw a young species that had just discovered fire. They thought these humans would make good slaves. So they took some of them, put them in cages, and brought them back to their empire to study. Vexcol laughed. "And what did these primitive humans do? Throw rocks at their captors?" Thaynara's 6 eyes focused on him with a look that made him step back. "The humans escaped. But that was not the end of it. Somehow they learned to build ships. In less than 200 years, they went from discovering fire to traveling between stars. The Kethmari thought this was impressive but not threatening." The holographic display changed to show ancient battle scenes. The humans came to the Kethmari, homeworld with a single ship, just one small vessel. The Kethmari laughed and sent their entire fleet to destroy it. But the human ship did not fight. Instead, it crashed into the Kethmari sun. Several council members gasped. The humans had turned their ship into a weapon that made the star explode. The Kethmari homeworld burned. Their entire system was destroyed. An empire that had ruled for 1,000 years ended in a single day. "That's impossible," Vexcol protested. "No species would destroy themselves just to win a battle. That is why you do not understand humans," Thaynara replied. "They do not think like us. When you corner most species, they surrender or run. When you corner humans, they become more dangerous than anything else in the galaxy." She changed the display again, showing more ancient text. The survivors of the Kethmari wrote warnings. They said humans were not like other species. They said humans bonded with each other in ways that made them fight harder when their families were threatened. They said humans could turn anything into a weapon. Most importantly, they said humans remembered every wrong done to them. Council Leader Mordak frowned. "But Elder, these are just old stories. The humans today are not the same as those ancient ones. Are they not?" Thaynara asked. "Have you studied their history? In the span of 100 years on their homeworld, they fought 2 wars that killed over 100 million of their own kind. They built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They poisoned their own air and water, yet kept fighting. They reached their moon not for science, but because they were competing with their enemies." She pointed at the display showing Earth. "This species learned to fly by studying birds, then used that knowledge to build machines of war. They discovered the power of atoms and immediately used it to build bombs. They created a global communication network and used it to coordinate battles. Everything they learned they turned into a way to fight better. Vexcol shook his head. Even if these stories are true, the humans I've seen are weak. They live in small colonies. They have no great fleets. They focus on farming and research, not war. That is what makes them most dangerous, Thaniara said. They do not look for fights, but when fight comes to them, they do not hold back. The ancient records call them the sleeping giant. They seem peaceful until you wake them up. The elder walked back to her seat, her voice growing more serious. Commander Vexcol, I have seen many wars. I have watched empires rise and fall, but I have never seen anything in the ancient records that scared the old civilizations like humans did. There is a reason the elder species do not go near their space. Superstition and fear, Vexcol replied. We are Zephyrians. We have conquered 20 systems. We will not be stopped by ghost stories about a primitive species. Then you will learn the same lesson the Kethmari learned, Thanara said sadly. I pray to the ancient spirits that our people survive your education. The council voted that day. 10 members sided with Vexcol, believing that the rich worlds of human space were worth the risk. Only Thanara and one other voted against the war. As the meeting ended, Vexcol approached the elder. Old One, your fears are groundless. In 6 months I will return with these human worlds under our control. Then you will see that your ancient warnings were just stories meant to scare children. Thanara looked at him with sadness in her ancient eyes. Commander, I hope you are right. But if you are wrong, may the spirits have mercy on all of us, because the humans will not. Dr. Lisa Grant knelt beside a strange blue flower in the fields outside New Denver Colony. The morning sun cast long shadows across the rolling hills of the planet humans had named Kepler Prime. She carefully took pictures of the flower's unique petal structure, making notes in her research pad. Another new species, she murmured to herself. The colony biologists are going to love this. Her peaceful work was interrupted by a sharp beeping from her communication device. She pressed the button and heard the worried voice of her research partner. Lisa, you need to get back to the station right now. We're picking up massive energy readings approaching the system. Lisa stood up, brushing dirt from her knees. What kind of energy readings? The kind that come from really big spaceships. Admiral Morrison wants all civilians to report to the main colony immediately. Lisa looked up at the clear blue sky, seeing nothing but clouds and birds. But somewhere out there, something was coming. Something big enough to worry the military. She packed her equipment and drove her small hover car back toward the colony. New Denver was home to 50,000 people, mostly farmers, researchers, and their families. The colonists had built a beautiful city with parks, schools, and markets. Children played in the streets while their parents worked in the fields or the small factories. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the Orbital Defense Station, watching the long-range sensors with growing concern. 12 massive ships had just entered the system, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, reported Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from the communication station. Put it on screen, Morrison ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. His uniform was covered in strange symbols, and his eyes held a cold arrogance. I am Commander Vexcol of the Zephyrian Empire, the alien announced. You humans will evacuate all your colonies in this system within 72 hours. This space now belongs to us. Morrison stepped forward. Commander, I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We are peaceful colonists who wish no conflict with your people. Perhaps we can discuss this situation and find a solution that works for both of us. Vexcol's forearms crossed over his chest. There is nothing to discuss. You have 72 hours to leave. Any humans remaining after that time will be considered hostile invaders. Commander, we have families here, children, elderly people. 72 hours is not enough time to evacuate 50,000 civilians safely. We need at least 2 weeks to organize transport ships. 2 weeks? Vexcol laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. You humans are even weaker than I thought. You have 72 hours or we will remove you by force. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in shocked silence. Dr. Lisa Grant arrived at the colony just as the emergency sirens began wailing. Colony leader Frank Miller's voice echoed from speakers throughout the city. All citizens report to designated evacuation centers. This is not a drill. We have made contact with an alien species, and they have demanded we leave our homes. Stay calm, help your neighbors, and follow evacuation procedures. Lisa found herself assigned to help organize the evacuation of the colony's children. She worked alongside teachers and parents, trying to keep the kids calm while adults hurried to pack essential supplies. The children asked questions she couldn't answer. "Dr. Grant, why do we have to leave?" asked 8-year-old Bobby Miller, the colony leader's son. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements," Lisa told him. "We're going to take a trip while the adults figure things out." But Lisa knew it wasn't that simple. The fear in Admiral Morrison's eyes when he addressed the colony had told her everything she needed to know. These aliens weren't interested in talking. 60 hours into the evacuation, Admiral Morrison tried one more time to contact the Zephyrian commander. The alien fleet had moved closer to the planet, their weapons now clearly visible on the defense station's sensors. "Commander Vexcol, we are moving as quickly as we can. We have evacuated 30,000 people, but we still have 20,000, civilians, including children and elderly, who need more time." Vexcol appeared on screen again, his expression showing no emotion. "Your weakness disgusts me. If you cannot protect your own people, then you do not deserve to keep them." "What does that mean?" Morrison asked. "It means your time is up." The transmission ended, and Morrison's sensors immediately showed the Zephyrian ships powering their weapons. "All stations, red alert," Morrison shouted. "Launch all fighters and power defensive systems." The battle lasted 3 hours. The human defense platforms designed to handle pirates and small raiders were overwhelmed by the advanced Zephyrian plasma weapons. One by one, the orbital stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light. On the planet's surface, Captain Amy Rodriguez was leading a convoy of evacuation ships when the first Zephyrian attack ships broke through the atmosphere. She watched in horror as the alien fighters targeted the fleeing transport vessels. "They're shooting at civilian ships," she screamed into her radio. "The evacuation transports are clearly marked as non-military." Dr. Ben Cooper, a civilian scientist, was recording everything with his personal camera. He watched Zephyrian ground forces land near the colony's hospital, where hundreds of sick and injured people were waiting for transport. "They're not even trying to capture the building," he whispered into his camera. "They're just destroying everything." The hospital's white walls collapsed under plasma fire. The Zephyrians made no effort to check if the building was empty. They simply burned it to the ground. Colony leader Frank Miller organized the remaining civilians into groups, leading them toward the hills where transport ships were still trying to land. But the Zephyrians had a different plan. "Attention, humans," Vexcol's voice boomed from speakers on the alien ships. "You were warned to leave. Now you will learn the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire." What followed was not a battle, but a massacre. The Zephyrians targeted schools, hospitals, and refugee camps. They hunted down fleeing families and destroyed evacuation ships. They showed no mercy to anyone, regardless of age or whether they were armed. Dr. Lisa Grant found herself hiding in a basement with 30 other survivors, including 12 children. They listened to the sounds of destruction above them, the wai, screams of their neighbors, and the terrible silence that followed. "Why are they doing this?" whispered Bobby Miller, tears streaming down his face. Lisa held the boy close, her own tears falling. "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." Captain Rodriguez managed to escape the planet with 3 transport ships carrying 800 survivors. As her ship broke through the atmosphere, she looked back at the burning colony below. "Set course for Earth," she told her pilot. "Maximum speed." "What about the other survivors?" the pilot asked. Rodriguez watched the Zephyrian ships continuing their attack on the planet's surface. "There are no other survivors." The 3 ships that escaped Kepler Prime carried not just refugees, but something else. They carried the recorded evidence of what the Zephyrians had done. They carried the testimony of witnesses who had seen an alien species deliberately target human children and families. Most importantly, they carried the news that would wake up the sleeping giant Elder Thaynara had warned about. As the human ships jumped to hyperspace, heading for Earth, Commander Vexcol stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the burning human colony with satisfaction. "Signal the High Council," he ordered. "Tell them the human colonies have been eliminated. Sector 7 Alpha is now under Zephyrian control." He had no idea that his easy victory was about to become the worst mistake in his species' history. The refugee ships from Kepler Prime limped into Earth's solar system 3 weeks after the massacre. Captain Amy Rodriguez sat in her damaged transport, looking at the blue and white planet ahead of her. She had barely slept since the escape, haunted by the images of burning hospitals and murdered children. "Earth Control, this is Captain Rodriguez aboard refugee transport Liberty 1. We are survivors from the Kepler colonies. We need immediate assistance and emergency medical aid." "Ease," response came quickly. "Liberty 1, this is Earth Control. We have medical ships launching now. Can you tell us what happened out there?" Rodriguez closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "Earth Control, the Kepler colonies are gone. All of them. We have video evidence of what they did. The aliens, they didn't just attack our military. They targeted hospitals, schools, refugee camps. They killed children, old people, anyone they could find." Silence filled the radio for a long moment. "Liberty 1. Proceed to Luna Station. President Carter wants to speak with you personally." Dr. Ben Cooper was one of the first survivors to be interviewed. He sat across from General Ryan Blake, Earth's highest military commander, showing him the recordings he had made during the attack. "General, you need to understand," Cooper said, his hands shaking as he operated his camera. "This wasn't war. This was murder. Look at this footage." The screen showed Zephyrian soldiers shooting at a clearly marked hospital. Children could be seen running from the building before it collapsed. "They knew it was a hospital," Cooper continued. "The building had medical symbols painted on the roof. They could see the children running. They shot at them anyway." General Blake watched the footage with growing anger. His jaw clenched as he saw alien soldiers destroying a school bus full of evacuating children. "How many survivors made it out?" Blake asked. 800 out of 50,000, Cooper replied. "The rest are dead." Blake stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Earth's cities filled with billions of people. Families walking in parks, children playing, people living normal, peaceful lives. All of them now threatened by an alien species that killed for sport. "Doctor, I want you to show this footage to every news network on Earth. I want every human being to see what these aliens did to our people." Within hours, the images from Kepler Prime were broadcast across the planet. People gathered around screens in their homes, offices, and public spaces, watching in horror as alien soldiers murdered human children and destroyed hospitals. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. President Helen Carter addressed the Global Assembly the next day. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind her, a massive screen showed the faces of the Kepler victims, including 8-year-old Bobby Miller. "My fellow humans," Carter began, her voice steady, but filled with controlled rage. "3 weeks ago, our species experienced something we hoped would never happen. We made contact with an alien civilization, and they responded with unprovoked genocide." The hall was completely silent. These aliens, who call themselves Zephyrians, gave our colonists 72 hours to evacuate 50,000 people. When our people asked for more time to save the children and elderly, the aliens responded by deliberately targeting them for extermination. Carter's voice grew stronger. "For 300 years, humanity has dreamed of meeting other intelligent species. We imagined sharing knowledge, culture, and friendship with beings from distant worlds. Instead, we found monsters who kill children for territory." She turned to face the camera, broadcasting to the world. "I stand before you today to announce that Earth will respond to this attack with the full measure of our capacity for righteous fury. We will not hide behind our borders hoping they leave us alone. We will not negotiate with child killers. We We'll show them exactly what humans do when someone threatens our families. The president's next words would be remembered throughout human history. They wanted to see what humans do when cornered. They're about to learn why our ancestors conquered a world of predators. The Global Assembly voted unanimously to activate the Sol Defense Protocol, a military mobilization plan that had been theoretical until that moment. Within hours, every factory on Earth began retooling for war production. Admiral Susan Torres stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching as humanity transformed itself into a war machine. Car factories stopped making vehicles and started producing military equipment. Computer companies began making targeting systems. Food processing plants switched to producing military rations. "Admiral, the industrial conversion is ahead of schedule," reported her aide. "We'll have the first wave of warships ready in 60 days. Torres nodded, studying the reports flowing across her screen. "What about the asteroid belt facilities?" "The secret shipyards are at full production, ma'am. They've been building warships for decades, just in case something like this happened." Dr. Alex Wright led the team studying the Zephyrian technology recovered from the destroyed orbital stations. His laboratory worked around the clock, taking apart alien weapons and learning how they functioned. "The Zephyrians use plasma-based weapons," Wright explained to General Blake. "Very effective against our current shields, but we're developing countermeasures. More importantly, we're learning to build better weapons." "Better how?" Blake asked. Wright smiled grimly. "Let's just say that when we're done, the Zephyrians will discover that humans are very good at making things that destroy other things." Captain Nick Foster trained the new Special Forces units in zero-gravity combat. His soldiers practiced fighting in the tight corridors of spaceships, learning how to board enemy vessels and capture them. "Remember," Foster told his troops, "these aliens think humans are weak because we're smaller than them. They're about to learn that in a fight, size doesn't matter as much as determination." The training facilities worked day and night. Millions of humans volunteered for military service, driven by rage over the images from Kepler Prime. Meanwhile, in space around Earth, something extraordinary was happening. Hidden shipyards that had been secretly building vessels for decades suddenly revealed themselves. Massive warships emerged from concealed asteroid bases, their hulls bearing names like Kepler's Revenge and Never Again. These ships were unlike anything humanity had built before. They were designed specifically for one purpose: to fight and win interstellar wars. Their weapons could crack moons, their armor could survive ramming attacks, and their crews were trained to fight with a personal hatred that professional soldiers had never seen. The refugee survivors were given places of honor in the war effort. Captain Rodriguez was promoted to admiral and given command of a battleship. Dr. Cooper became the official war correspondent, tasked with recording humanity's response for history. On the outer edge of the solar system, automated probe networks began reporting back to Earth. Human intelligence services had been secretly watching alien civilizations for years, and now that knowledge became vital. "The Zephyrian Empire controls 23 star systems," reported Intelligence Director Karen Adams. "Their military is spread thin across their territory. They're not expecting an attack." President Carter smiled coldly. "Good. Let's keep it that way." As Earth prepared for war far across the galaxy, Commander Vexcol was celebrating his victory with his officers. He had no idea that his easy conquest had awakened something that would haunt his nightmares. "The humans were even weaker than we expected," Vexcol boasted to his crew. "Their weapons were pathetic. Their ships were slow, and they broke completely when we showed them real force." His communications officer looked up from his station. "Commander, we're receiving reports from our border systems. Long-range sensors are picking up some unusual energy signatures." "What kind of signatures?" Vexcol asked. "Unknown, sir. But they're big. Really big." Vexcol dismissed the report with a wave of his hand. "Probably merchant ships or mining vessels. The humans are too primitive to pose any real threat." He had no idea that at that very moment the largest military fleet in galactic history was making its final preparations. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, 400 warships were being loaded with weapons designed by a species that had turned warfare into an art form. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. 6 months after the Kepler massacre, Admiral Susan Torres stood on the bridge of her flagship Earth's Wrath, watching as the largest fleet in human history dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory. 400 warships, spread out in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. "Admiral, all ships report ready for combat," announced her communications officer. "The fleet is awaiting your orders." Torres looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyrian border world of Corax Prime ahead of them. Intelligence reports indicated it was a major military supply base, home to 3 million Zephyrians and defended by 200 warships. "Signal the fleet," Torres commanded. "Begin Operation Righteous Fury. Show them what happens when you murder human children." On the bridge of the heavy cruiser, Liberty's Revenge, Captain Pete Johnson watched the first wave of human ships accelerate toward the enemy planet. His ship was part of the second wave, designed to hit any Zephyrian reinforcements that tried to escape. "Captain, the Zephyrians are launching their defense fleet," reported his tactical officer. 200 ships all moving to intercept our lead elements." Johnson smiled grimly. "Poor bastards have no idea what they're flying into. Maintain formation and prepare for engagement." The first contact between the fleets happened at the edge of Corax Prime's gravity well. The Zephyrians, confident in their superior technology, charged straight at the human formation. They expected the humans to scatter or retreat like most species did when faced with overwhelming odds. Instead, the human ships did something the Zephyrians had never seen before. They accelerated directly into the enemy formation. "What are they doing?" shouted the Zephyrian fleet commander. "Are they trying to ram us?" The answer came in the form of the human battleship Kepler's Revenge, smashing through the center of the Zephyrian line. The massive ship's armored hull absorbed plasma fire that would have destroyed any other vessel, while its weapons turned 3 Zephyrian cruisers into expanding clouds of debris. But the ramming attack was just the beginning. As the human ships scattered the Zephyrian formation, they deployed weapons the aliens had never encountered. Missiles that could change direction in mid-flight. Energy beams that could slice through ship hulls like hot knives through butter. And most terrifying of all, kinetic weapons that turned asteroids into planet-killing projectiles. Dr. Kate Phillips, the fleet's war correspondent, watched the battle from the medical bay of Torres's flagship. She had volunteered to document humanity's response to the massacre, wanting the galaxy to see what happened when someone threatened human families. "The Zephyrian ships are breaking formation," she spoke into her recording device. "They're trying to retreat, but our ships are faster." Captain Johnson's cruiser just caught a fleeing destroyer and oh my God. Phillips watched as Liberty's Revenge fired a spread of missiles that didn't explode on impact. Instead, they burrowed into the enemy ship's hull and detonated inside, tearing the vessel apart from within. "The human weapons are designed not just to destroy ships but to make sure nothing survives," she continued. "This isn't a battle. This is an execution." On the planet's surface, Zephyrian civilians watched in terror as human ships began bombarding military targets with surgical precision. Unlike the Zephyrians at Kepler Prime, the humans made no attempt to harm civilian areas. They targeted only military bases, weapons factories, and government buildings. Lieutenant Sam Davis led the first human boarding party onto a disabled Zephyrian cruiser. His Marines moved through the ship's corridors in powered armor that made them look like mechanical demons. The Zephyrian crew, who had expected to fight primitive humans with simple weapons, instead faced soldiers equipped with technology that seemed impossible. "Surrender and you will be treated according to the laws of war," Davis announced through his armor's speakers. "Resist, and you will be destroyed." The Zephyrian captain, bleeding from wounds caused by his ship's violent capture, looked at the human Marine in shock. "You spared our civilians on the planet," the alien officer said. "Why? We would have destroyed your cities." Davis's voice was cold behind his helmet. "Because we're not animals like you. We don't make war on the innocent, but threaten our families, and we'll burn down your entire civilization to protect them." The battle for Corax Prime lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian defense fleet was completely destroyed, and every military installation on the planet was in ruins. But not a single civilian building had been touched. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy military targets with precision that terrified professional soldiers, while showing mercy that confused them even more. Commander Vexcol received the news of Corax Prime's fall while stationed at the Zephyrian stronghold of Theta Station. His confident demeanor finally began to crack as he watched the tactical reports flowing in. "How many human ships did we destroy?" he asked his intelligence officer. 17 damaged, sir. None destroyed." Vexcol stared at the report in disbelief. "We lost 200 ships and they lost none? How is that possible?" "Sir, the human technology is far more advanced than we estimated. Their ships have armor that can survive ramming attacks, and their weapons can penetrate our shields like they don't exist." For the first time since the war began, Vexcol felt a cold fear in his chest. These weren't the primitive humans he had massacred at Kepler Prime. These were warriors with technology and tactics he didn't understand. "Signal the High Council," he ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements, all of them." But Admiral Torres had no intention of giving the Zephyrians time to regroup. The human fleet split into smaller task forces, each one targeting a different Zephyrian world. They moved through enemy space like a plague, destroying military installations and crippling the Empire's ability to wage war. Captain Johnson's Liberty's Revenge led an attack on the Zephyrian weapons manufacturing world of Delta 7. His ships surrounded the planet and delivered an ultimatum that echoed across the galaxy. "Attention, Zephyrian forces. You have 1 hour to evacuate all military personnel from this world. After that, we will demonstrate what human ingenuity can accomplish when properly motivated." The Zephyrians refused to evacuate, confident that their underground bunkers could withstand any attack. They were wrong. The humans had developed something they called planet crackers. Weapons that could shatter moons and turn asteroid belts into kinetic bombardment systems. When Delta 7's military installations were destroyed, the explosions could be seen from orbit. But again, civilian areas remained untouched. Dr. Phillips interviewed captured Zephyrian officers after each battle, asking them the same question. "Did you expect this kind of response from humans?" The answers were always similar. "We thought they were weak," said one captured admiral. "We thought because they were smaller than us they couldn't fight. We were told humans gave up easily when faced with superior force." "What do you think, now?" Phillips asked. The admiral looked at her with something approaching respect mixed with terror. "I think we woke up something that should have been left sleeping. Your people don't fight like soldiers, they fight like every battle is personal. Like we killed their own families." "You did kill our families," Phillips replied. "And now you're learning what happens when you make that mistake." As the human fleet advanced deeper into Zephyrian space, panic began to spread through the Empire. Worlds that had never seen war suddenly found themselves evacuating their populations as human task forces approached. But the humans weren't interested in conquest. They had one target in mind: the Zephyrian homeworld of Vextar, where the decision to massacre human children had been made. Elder Thaynara watched the reports of human victories with growing dread. She had tried to warn them. She had begged the council to listen to the ancient records, but her people had been too proud, too confident in their own superiority. Now they were learning the same lesson the Kethmari Empire had learned 3,000 years ago. You don't wake up sleeping giants. As the human fleet gathered for the final assault on Vextar, Admiral Torres sent a message that was broadcast throughout Zephyrian space. "This is Admiral Susan Torres of the Human Defense Fleet. We are coming for your homeworld. We are coming for your leaders. We are coming to teach your species a lesson that will be remembered for the next 1,000 years. You wanted to see what humans do when threatened. You're about to find out." The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was heading straight for the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Vextar system like a wall of metal and death. 400 warships spread across space in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. Behind them came support vessels, mobile, shipyards, and medical ships, showing that humanity had come prepared for a long fight. Admiral Susan Torres stood on the bridge of Earth's Wrath, looking at the massive Zephyrian fleet waiting near their homeworld. Every ship the Empire could gather had come here for this final battle. Over 800 vessels formed defensive lines around Vexatar, their hulls gleaming with desperate courage. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported her communications officer. Torres nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Elder Thainara in what appeared to be a private chamber. The ancient Zephyrian looked tired and defeated, her 6 eyes filled with sadness. "Admiral Torres," the Elder began, "I am Thainara, member of the High Council. I tried to warn my people about humans. I told them what the ancient record said about your species. They did not listen." Torres stepped forward. "Elder, your people murdered 50,000 innocent civilians, including children. There will be consequences for that act." "I know," Thainara replied quietly. "I have read the old stories. I know what humans do to those who harm their young. But I must ask you to consider mercy for the civilians on our homeworld. They did not choose this war." Torres was silent for a moment, studying the alien leader's face. "Elder, we did not come here to slaughter innocents. We came for those responsible for the Kepler massacre. Surrender Commander Vexkol and his war council, and we will spare your people." "And if they refuse to surrender?" Torres's expression hardened. "Then we will come and take them. But we will not harm civilians in the process. That's the difference between us and you." The transmission ended, leaving Torres to face the massive enemy fleet ahead. She opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Torres to all vessels. We are about to engage the full might of the Zephyrian Empire. Remember why we're here. Remember the children of Kepler Prime. Show them what happens when someone threatens human families." The battle began at dawn on Vextar. The Zephyrian fleet charged forward in waves, their commanders hoping to overwhelm the smaller human force through sheer numbers. What they encountered instead was a level of coordinated warfare they had never imagined. Captain Pete Johnson's Liberty's Revenge led the first human attack wave, his heavy cruiser's weapons tearing through enemy formations like a sword through silk. But this time the Zephyrians were ready for human tactics. They had studied the previous battles and developed countermeasures. The fight became brutal and desperate. Zephyrian ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, but they kept coming, driven by the knowledge that this was their last stand. Human vessels took damage for the first time in the war, their armor scarred by plasma fire and kinetic strikes. Dr. Kate Phillips watched from the medical bay as wounded human soldiers were brought in. She interviewed them between surgeries, documenting the intensity of the battle. "How are they fighting differently?" she asked Lieutenant Sam Davis, who had been injured during a boarding action. "They're fighting like humans now," Davis replied, wincing as medics treated his wounded arm. "Like every battle is personal. They finally understand what we've known all along. When you fight for your home, you fight harder." The space around Vextar became a graveyard of twisted metal and burning plasma. For 18 hours, the two fleets hammered each other with weapons that could crack planets. The Zephyrians fought with desperate courage, but human technology and tactical superiority slowly won out. As the last Zephyrian warship exploded, Admiral Torres received another transmission from Elder Thainara. "Admiral, the military council has been overruled. I am now speaking for the Zephyrian government. We surrender Commander Vexkol and all officers responsible for the Kepler massacre. Please, no more killing." Torres looked at the burning remains of the enemy fleet scattered across space. "Elder, prepare to receive our boarding parties. Anyone who resists will be destroyed." Captain Roy Mitchell led the arrest team that landed on Vextar's surface. His Marines moved through the capital, city with weapons ready but not firing. Zephyrian civilians watched from windows and doorways as the human soldiers marched toward the government complex. Commander Vexkol waited in the council chambers, his 4 arms bound in surrender chains. For the first time since the war began, his arrogant confidence was completely gone. He looked up at Captain Mitchell with eyes that held the hollow stare of defeat. "I want to ask you something," Vexkol said quietly. Your admiral could have destroyed our cities. Your ships could have bombarded our planet until nothing lived. Why didn't you? Mitchell removed his helmet, revealing a face marked by battle scars and exhaustion. Because we're not monsters like you. We don't make war on the innocent. But you destroyed our entire military, Vexcol continued. 800 ships, millions of soldiers. You ended our empire in a matter of months. You started this war when you decided to murder human children, Mitchell replied. We finished it, as the human transport lifted off with Vexcol and his war criminals. President Helen Carter's voice was broadcast across the galaxy from Earth. To all civilizations listening to this message, let it be known that humanity seeks peace with all species. We offer trade, friendship, and cooperation to any who approach us with respect. But let it also be known that any species that targets human civilians, especially our children, will face the full fury of our united response. The broadcast included footage from the Battle of Vextar, showing human ships systematically destroying one of the galaxy's major military powers while carefully avoiding civilian targets. We do not seek conquest or domination, Carter continued. We seek only to protect our people and live in peace, but threaten our families, and we will demonstrate why the ancients learned to fear the small blue planet on the galaxy's edge. Dr. E. Paul Anderson, who had been brought to document the aftermath, interviewed Elder Thaynara in her chambers on Vextar. The ancient alien was updating the galactic records, adding new entries about humanity. What will you tell future generations about humans? Anderson asked. Thaynara looked up from her work, her 6 eyes reflecting deep wisdom gained through terrible experience. I will tell them what I should have made my people understand before this war began. Humans are not like other species. They do not fight for territory or resources or glory. They fight for each other. When you threaten their families, you face not just soldiers, but an entire civilization united by love and rage. She turned back to her records, writing carefully. I will tell them that humans can show mercy that other species find incomprehensible, and fury that will burn down empires. I will tell them to approach humanity with respect, never with hostility. And I will tell them that the humans of Sol 3 have demonstrated why the ancients feared them. As human ships began departing Zephyrian space, leaving behind a broken empire, and a lesson that would echo through the galaxy for generations, Admiral Torres stood on her bridge one last time, looking at the blue-green world of Vextar. Admiral, her communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender messages from 17 different alien governments. They're all requesting diplomatic contact with Earth. Torres smiled grimly. Send them our standard first contact protocols. Tell them we're willing to talk, but make sure they understand our terms, which are, approach with respect, and you'll find us the best neighbors in the galaxy. Come with hostility, and you'll learn why the Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. The human fleet began its journey home, carrying with them the proof that humanity's ancient reputation was well-deserved. They had shown the galaxy that Earth's children were protected by something far more dangerous than any weapon or warship. They were protected by a species that would burn down the stars themselves before allowing harm to come to their families. The sleeping giant had awakened, delivered its message, and now returned to peaceful slumber. But the galaxy would never forget the lesson it had learned. Never threaten a human's family, because humans remember everything, and they never forgive those who harm their children.